Hello and welcome to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. My name is Mehmet, and in each episode, as you know, I cover different topics from emerging tech, cybersecurity, digital transformation. And at the same time, sometimes I have with me subject matter experts who talk more about entrepreneurships and startups. But today I'm doing something a little bit different. I wanted to cover a topic that I think we didn't cover it yet on the show, which is health for people who works in tech and people who are founders or entrepreneurs. And for this reason, I have with me today Julian. Julian, thank you very much for being with me on the show today. If you can just introduce yourself and what you are up to.
Thank you so much for having me on. I truly appreciate it. And I'll keep this short and sweet. I run a company called Executive Health.io, and my primary focus, both personally and professionally, is on sustained peak performance throughout the years as we chronologically get older, take more trips around the sun, and also maximizing long span or lifespan, sorry, by leveraging a lot of the newest and most state of the art precision based tools out there right now.
Great. Thank you very much for introducing yourself, Julian. Now, one thing when I was preparing for today's episode, like I get to know that you have actually left medical school to pursue this unique path of connecting health and business. Can you a little bit tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and I went to medical school in New York, and that's two totally different areas. The South is generally a little slower in terms of the pace of life compared to the North and the big city. And so when I get to New York, um, I'm going out and about in the city a lot. Probably I'm not going to class as much, and I'm meeting so many interesting people. And I come to this realization after a lot of conversations that I enjoy science and health, but I don't necessarily enjoy the the art of becoming a doctor or a surgeon.
Hmm.
I want to be a surgeon. And so I was at a crossroads there, but it was a very easy decision because the worst thing to ever have in my book is regret. I never wanted to be one of those people 50, 60 years down the line that are talking to kids and everything, telling them, I wish I did this, I wish I did that. And I could always go back to school. So the decision was fairly easy to not go back. And over the course of time, I started out just generally doing personal training, doing some nutrition coaching. And then as I evolve myself and get more curious and start researching, connecting with other doctors and health people outside the system, I started to get this itch myself to evolve the business and do something different. And that's kind of what morphed into executive health now is that, I'm very into tech in terms of leveraging it and not letting it control us. But then I'm also into human performance and potential. And there's so much that's left on the table. And that question it's a big question to solve, but it's something that keeps me going every day and probably for the rest of my life.
Wow, I like this way you took. So you follow what you really wanted to do, so you don't want to regret choosing something that you know you would wish later that you didn't do.
Yes.
Now, one thing I know you talk about a lot is matching physical success to financial success.
Mhm.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, and how does our physical health impact our professional performance?
Yeah, well, a lot of times what you'll see is you'll see a lot of entrepreneurs or even people that are really trying to get up and climb up to the C-suite and everything, whatever the ambitious person is in their venture. And you'll see them kind of blow everything off to the side just for this professional goal. And what usually happens is that they get to this destination, whatever that is, and they usually find out that the journey never stops, but that's a whole nother topic in itself. Now they get to this endpoint, and now they're probably not feeling as good. They have less energy. They have more weight than they want on. There's a bunch of different things. They just don't feel like themselves. And now they have to attempt to buy back their health. And so that's one scenario. But another scenario is a lot of times what you'll see people that are becoming more successful, people that are really getting after it, they will start to have more responsibilities. They will start to have more expectations on themselves. And they still have a personal life to deal with. and they have and responsibilities, as I mentioned. And so this culmination of things that they have there, I that's part of like a success paradox because the more successful you get, the more you chase success, the more in demand you're going to be. And a lot of times these people, they don't intentionally neglect their health. It's more unintentionally neglecting their health because there's so many other um, things that demand their attention and demand their responsibilities and that they're focused on that they accidentally let it happen with their health. And the reason why is because with health, you can go a week without working out and maybe eating poorly. You might feel a little off a little bit, but you're not just going to feel so off that you just have to do something about it. A lot of times, problems with our health, they take time to matriculate and sprout up. It's the same thing of why you see people, you know, gain weight. So look at this at the holiday times, at least in the States. People will, they'll gain about, let's say, 6 or 8 pounds during the holidays, maybe. Then they'll probably lose about 5 of those. So you're at a net of +3. +3 pounds is you really don't notice that. That's nothing. You're not gonna have to change the size of your jeans. You're not gonna have to change the size of your suit jacket or anything like that. 3 pounds is nothing. But you do this 2 years, 3 years, and it's 3 every time, that's 9 pounds. 5 years is 15 pounds. 7 years is 21 pounds. Next thing you know, you're severely out of shape. And so
Yeah.
these things are death by a thousand cuts with our health. And so until we get like this what's the light in our car, the check engine light in our car, that's
Yeah.
usually that's usually when we have to take action. And but I talk about business and health because they go together. A lot of times what makes you successful in business can make you successful in health. The same principles apply. But also even looking at something such as your sleep, that's so many cognitive benefits that you could then become much more efficient and effective in your job. And that's just one domain. We can look at exercise, you can look at nutrition, and you can look at even things like meditation and mindfulness. And all of these things will translate over to having you be a higher capable leader who's also going to perform at a much higher level and be much more efficient. And if you're more efficient, now you're going to get more time on the back end to do the things you enjoy and to be with the people that you enjoy.
Well, wow, that's really eye-opening, I would say, especially the part that, yeah, it's not only in the US, like it's everywhere, I believe, when you start to gain these small, like bits, I would say, but with time, they build up. And very important point there. Now, Julian, in the tech world specifically, because, usually my audience, we target tech people and founders. So we often see entrepreneurs and professionals sacrificing their health due to long hours and high stress. So, what you would advise them to do?
Well, the first thing is we got to look at the calendar and you got to start to treat your health like a business. Look at it in the same entity and make it a non negotiable. Something simple to do that maybe is hard for a lot of people is to just put something on the calendar for you to do your activity. So go ahead and block that off so you're not tempted to take another meeting because the world we live in now, we can do Zoom meetings. We can do these all day and all night. So the first thing to do is to set time in your calendar for activity. I'm not as picky as maybe some people are. If you're a morning person, you like to do your workouts in the morning, go ahead and do them. That's not me. I like to kind of break my day apart. So I'm more of a early afternoon type of person, and then sometimes early evening.
Mhm.
So find that. So find what works for you first and foremost. That's the most important thing. Um, Next, what you could do then is usually for people, nutrition is the hard part. Not because they don't know what to eat, but usually because of so many things going on. And what I've seen is that people at the beginning of the day for breakfast, that's okay. Breakfast is pretty good for people, but it's usually the middle of the day. That's where things can get a little dicey. So if you can, look into things like a meal delivery service or somebody to cater your meals, at least just during maybe Monday through Friday or so, where maybe on the weekend you still work some, but you're just not as crammed and slammed with meetings and other tasks to do. So really dial in that nutrition and have a strategy for that nutrition. So you have your exercise and you have your nutrition. And now for sleep, I like to tell people to at least get at least 7 hours. Very
Mhm.
few, very few of us can thrive on 5 hours. I think there's maybe like 2% of the population that can do that. And there's a certain gene variant with that. I think it's like the DEC2 gene, if I remember correctly. Most of us cannot do that. If you hook their brains up, you would see that it will confirm it. But when you're thinking about sleep, though, think about quality just as much as you can think about quantity. That's a big thing. So a lot of times we look at just the quantity of it. Hey, I slept 7 hours. Hey, I slept 8 hours. But what's the quality of that sleep? And a lot of times now we have different devices that we wear on our wrist, that we wear on our across our chest. Some there's devices for beds now to track sleep, and then there's also like a Oura ring that you can put on your finger.
Yeah.
Mhm. And that's gonna give you the breakdown of your sleep and the sleep architecture, and you can look at the breakdown of REM, you can look at the breakdown of deep sleep and go from there to have it even of a higher quality, so you're being once again, I always talk about efficiency and effectiveness. So even with your sleep, there's junk food sleep and then there's quality sleep. So continually refine and optimize for, um, quality sleep.
Very informative, I would say. I think I need to check my gene you talked about because I think of these 2% of the population.
Mhm,
Uh, yes, it's interesting. Now, you mentioned like few things related to technology,
mhm.
like the rings and so on. So, in general, how can technology help us in achieving peak physical health and sustained performance? Like other than, the devices you mentioned, are there any other tools or technologies you would recommend usually?
Not just off the bat. If I'm consulting, working with someone, there's different tools I use and that I'll send to them. And like one tool that I'll send to people, it's a first beat device. And what you're going to do is that they'll hook that up to themselves and they'll wear it for 3 days, and it's going to track every heartbeat for 3 days, and you're going to see how this person's living. You're going to see from a stress standpoint, from a HRV heart rate standpoint. It's more medical grade technology, so it's a little more accurate than a lot of the things we wear on our wrist. And so that's one of the things I like to use. But for most people, something like the Oura Ring, the Whoop Band, the BioStrap, or a Garmin, or the Apple, any of those. A lot of those are great because you can look at your HRV, you can look at your heart rate, you get your breakdown of sleep, you'll get activity, you'll get your respiratory rate, and you'll get a lot of those do skin temperature now as well. And what those things is doing is you're essentially getting a mini checkup every single day. You're getting a basic checkup. You're going to know your numbers. So you're getting a baseline of what your numbers are. So if these numbers are off for any substantial time period, you know that something is not right within your entire human system. So basically, you are helping resiliency because you are getting ahead of the curve. So, like, I had an illness maybe 6 or 7 months ago, and I
Mhm.
noticed that my respiratory rate was a little higher, my HRV was down, much lower than it should be, and my heart rate was up much more than it should be. And it wasn't because I had a tough workout or anything, or I didn't get enough sleep. So I knew I was like, interesting. One day maybe aberration. The next day the same thing. I think I'm getting sick or something's off right now. So now I get a head start. So I'm probably getting 48 to 72 hours to get ahead of this thing. So therefore, when it does come, it's not going to keep me down as long. And so I can get back. And that's the name of the game with health. It's not just about how we look, it's also about being resilient so we can get back to work, get back to creating, get back to providing and and whatever else we enjoy. And another thing with the technology is that it's accountability and it's not bias. And the reason why that's important is because a lot of founders, a lot of people in tech, we yeah, I'm one of those people. We kind of have an ego and we're a little stubborn. That's That's beneficial because that's part of our gifts, right? And we have to be a little if you're creating something from nothing or if you're taking something to something greater, you have to be a little delusional, a little arrogant. Some people would say narcissistic. You have to have a little tinge of that, to survive in this world with all the other people who maybe naysayers or something. But the data is just the data. There's no bias or nothing. It is what it is. And so it's accountability. It's a reminder when you open your smartphone and you look at the numbers and you see it says what it says, it is what it is. This is how you're living. You can't escape from that. And I also think it's a way to be precise. So the future of health, first and foremost, is going to be one that's much more precise in terms of how they go about things and very forward thinking. I think you mentioned that you're in Dubai. Dubai is a very forward thinking city. Even with I do know that even with a lot of the health people out there, it's a very forward thinking place. And
Mhm.
that's how these wearables are in health can be that we can use this technology here to be very forward thinking, to be very proactive with our health and not reactive. A lot of times we are very reactive. We need something to happen before we take action. When you have these things, you shift from a reactive typically to now a proactive state.
Yeah, great insights, I would say, Julian. Now, you talk a little bit about how we should, um, organize. I mean, try to put calendars and put some stops. One of the, I would say, excuses people do sometimes. I have to work for long hours, and I'm
Mhm,
not saying that they are exaggerating. Really, in some specific tech jobs, they need to be on alert.
mhm.
Sometimes, maybe all the time. And for founders, and you said like we are stubborn by nature sometimes. Um, how we can with all this busy schedule that we might have still try to implement a little bit of you know healthy habits there. Like, what's your advice for extremely busy people or for the people who are like in a rush? Yeah, I want to come out with the next big thing before someone else do it. What they can do.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of answers there. Sometimes I joke with people and say that you need pain to happen to you. You need to get sick enough, or you need to get injured enough, or you need to feel crappy enough, and then you'll change. Pain. We're like little kids. You need to put your hand on the stove and let it burn, and then you'll never do it again. And
Yeah.
so for me, that's what happened. That's kind of why I am with the way I am with health. I grew up in a family that had a lot of health struggles. So I saw not only the physical pain that stuff causes, but I saw the emotional toll that it has, not even on the person that's not feeling good and sick, but also everyone that's around him and what that does to them emotionally and kind of what that does to their quality of life and everything. So we can get lost and caught up in business and creating the newest thing to be first to market, but you think about that at the end of the day, what if you can't enjoy that 5 years down the line?
Yeah.
You can't even enjoy the fruits of your labors. What if, say you got a family, and what if you've been putting all this in there and you can't even be there for your family the way you want to be there down the line because you just completely sacrificed and neglected everything else? Now, I'm not saying you gotta prep for a marathon to run two a days, but everyone has 30 to 45 minutes. I'm willing to bet that. Everyone has 30 to 45 minutes. You can go for a walk. You can go for a walk today, and you can do a walking meeting, and you can do some of your meetings while you're walking. Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, a lot of the entrepreneurs that we look up to, they were notorious for doing walking meetings. And as you're getting in motion and doing activity, you're actually helping your brain. So you're probably going to come up with better ideas. Probably going to have a better meeting than just being sedentary because you're walking. You're getting those neurons firing in your brain. So consider doing multiple activities in one thing if you're that slammed. So you're stacking. So I don't have time to go to the gym today. Okay, it's fine. I at least say you should probably lift weights at least 3 to 4 times a week. That's great. But you can at least get you can at least get some more cardiovascular activity in every day. Even if that's a quick bike ride on the bike for 30 minutes or so. Then you can handle other meetings and stuff while you're on the bike ride. You can walk, like I said, and do a meeting while you're walking. Maybe it's not the most important one where you got to do a presentation, but maybe it's just a general catch up or something like that. You can do that while walking. So to sum that whole answer up there, it's stacking a bunch of things at one to do it, to combine it. And so this is more like lifestyle design to fit whatever your schedule is, and you're combining the things that work for you. And so you will have to be like a scientist a little bit and tweak a little bit. But one thing I do encourage you is to really look at, take yourself out of the picture for a minute and look 10 years down the line, look
Yeah.
15 years down the line, and really think about, what do I want my health and energy to be like then? What do I want to feel like? What do I want to look like? What do I want to be doing? And really get vivid with that. And then come back to the present and start doing little habits with that.
Uh, this pretty much resonated with what I did myself because I was always one of the guys who says, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. And then, the simple hack that I did, I said, if I wake up like 30 minutes earlier in the morning,
Mhm,
right? So I can use it to walk, as you said, or to do some biking.
mhm.
Uh, I know some other people, they do it in the afternoon. Maybe they are not like, I'm an early bird in the morning. I wake up at 4:30 every day. So I know that not everyone, I know that not everyone can be an early bird like me, but I removed, and by waking up that early, for me at least, I removed, the excuse to myself that I don't have time because at 4:30 there is no emails, no phone calls,
Yeah.
right? So I have to do it. So it's a good hack, I would say, to try. Maybe for the afternoon guys, they can find something else, but pretty much, it resonated with the way I did it with myself. So really good advice from your side.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, I will
yeah,
I will
please.
say one thing to add there. You did the most important thing is you designed it something that fits perfectly for you. It
Right,
doesn't matter if it's the most optimal advice to say to go to the gym exactly at 12:30 PM. If it's not gonna work for you, then it's irrelevant. The same thing
right.
about eating. You could say this is the best diet in the world, the best way of eating, but if it doesn't fit your personality and it's something that you constantly have to struggle with or you feel like you're fighting with and it's butting heads with your everyday lifestyle, it's probably not the thing to do. Unless, I mean, look, I doubt most people, maybe some are that are listening. They're trying to get ready for a specific show, a fitness show or some kind of competition. Then things change then. But for most people, they're not trying to do competitions or anything like that. They're trying to be healthy, to feel good, have enough energy so they can go continue with their business, their careers, and their families and enjoy and have some adventures. So
Right.
so you also have to keep perspective a lot of times when if people are giving advice at things to say, what lens is this person giving advice from? Right? Because I can say for myself, if I told people to train 2 a days, I train 2 a days, but I'm training for something totally different than probably the average person. So our lifestyles are going to be completely different. So be very mindful when you're hearing advice to think that, does this apply to my life? And will it be applicable and beneficial to my life and routine?
100%. I agree with you, Julian. Now, we talked a little bit about the tech and, entrepreneurs and all this. Something because I discussed about culture in general in the startup world. So how important is it is to have, the business leader, the founders, whoever, to create a culture of health within their organization? What are the benefits of such culture?
Yeah, well, everything starts with the leader. Everything starts with the leader from the top down is the leader. And this is one of the gripes I've had. Actually, I've done a few corporate wellness ventures, and you go to talk to the employees. You're talking about sleep and all this good stuff, and the leadership's not there. So it's like they're making the um, everyone else go, but the leadership's not there. So
Yeah,
if it's such a commitment, then why are you not doing it? If it's so important, then why are you not doing it? And because if you think about communication, only 7% of it is verbal. The rest of it is nonverbal. And a lot of that is through our actions. You even think about it as you're a little kid. A lot of times, my biggest lessons and biggest takeaways from my parents wasn't really what they said. That's cool and everything. It was really me seeing them in action. How does my dad treat people? How does my mom treat people? Do they keep their word? Do they follow through with their actions? That's what we notice. People can promise us the world, but are they going to follow through with that, with their actions? That speaks volumes. And the same goes in the business world. Is this leader a model of what he says he is? If he says, hey, we are a high performing company, if this guy is 25 pounds overweight, doesn't exercise at all, eats junk food, and is very sporadic, but he wants to hold the rest of his team and staff to a higher standard, that's very inconsistent and pretty hypocritical.
Right.
And yeah, so it starts and ends with you, the leader, first and foremost. So it's the same notion as a lot of us say, "Hey, I want to change the world. I want to make the world a better place." But to do that, you have to start with yourself and strive for personal excellence and be an example of someone going for personal excellence, not being perfect, but striving to be the best that you can be. And people will resonate and gravitate toward that. And you'll have a much easier time to lead, and you won't even have to tell people to do it because they'll see it and they can feel it.
Right. 100%. So it's always leading from the front, right? So
Mhm,
like, and it will give them like the benefits on the long run, I would say.
mhm.
While preparing, actually, Julian, one thing I've seen, like you've said, and it caught my attention. So you said that the mainstream health industry is decades behind. Can you elaborate on this and how can we bring it to the present and take it to the future?
Yeah, so, I'm not as familiar with a lot of other countries' healthcare system, but, but I have a pretty good idea that a lot of times when we think about health, once again, this goes back to kind of what we talked about a little bit earlier. Places are and people, systems are very reactive. So there's certain lab tests that if waited for insurance here in the States, or if I waited to get my doctor's permission to order certain labs, I couldn't get it right now because I'm not quote unquote sick or showing symptoms. So you couldn't get it. I would need to be showing symptoms or sick before I get certain tests, which makes no sense. So you need to get sick and get in the system before you can get taken care of. So it's not preventative. It's more of a sick care system, not a preventative system, not a system that focuses on optimizing and enhancing, but a system that focuses just on sick and get patching things up. And also, a lot of times you can come in with the symptom, you can come in with the issue, and not no, you're not gonna really necessarily get to the root cause. You might take care of the issue, but are you really taking care of the fundamental root cause of why this particular thing is happening or why you are feeling this particular way? And the way we go about things is still it's too much guessing when we have a lot of tools available that we can have a much more precise approach to treating people, to helping people. And so that's why it's decades behind. A lot of the information that is um that I look into, the people I talk to, it's very forward thinking, very progressive, and it's very archaic a lot of times with the typical establishment. And so I do hope in the future that they find a way to kind of if say pretend we're reading something that they put it on 3x or 4x to really catch up because they're very behind.
Yeah, I get your point. I think it's more about also the technology, maybe. Like, maybe I believe if it's kind of we need to have something preventive healthcare kind
Mhm,
of things. So yeah, 100% I agree. Like, I don't need to feel sick to go to the doctor. And I think this is common not only in the state, like everywhere.
mhm.
And I believe, in my opinion, one of the reasons is the way um, two things. So first, like, because people, they don't act, I mean, in a way that it's preventive. And the second thing, the insurance thing plays a role over here there as well, in
Oh,
my
yeah,
opinion. Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
So I think it's the both of them. But I'm hoping, I'm always on the positive side of the things. I'm hoping that technology will come and sort out this for us
Yeah.
on the long run.
Well, uh, I think we have even some disruptive technology right now, but it's it's a lot of red tape, and
Yeah,
that's a lot of money loss in terms of the
yeah,
insurance industries if you make some changes like that. And I look at things like peptides and peptide bioregulators and comparing that to pharmaceuticals. If you start changing and letting these things be more mainstream, that's a lot of money the pharmaceuticals are going to lose out on. And if I know one thing, people do not like to lose money.
Exactly, 100%.
So, so I think if there's any hope, I think more people are waking up and more people are taking the initiative to take their health into their own hands. I think they're not waiting. They're just
Yeah.
I think they're getting more curious. They're going to, they're going to search for alternative sources, whether that's podcasting, whether that's YouTube videos, whether that's articles, forums, or even asking their friend, "Hey, what are you looking into?" And going from there.
Right, 100%. Now, it's now my traditional final question nowadays. Julian, what is the question that you wished I asked you?
Whew, what is the question that you wish? That's an interesting question, actually.
It's a bit
Uh,
tricky, I know.
yeah. Let's see. I think you did a
But
fantastic job,
thank
and
you.
I think you can say, going back to kind of when we talked about you don't have time or something. What's like which I don't think nobody would ever ask that because it's a very random thing, but like, what's a what's an uncommon habit
Yeah.
that that you that that you use, or talking to myself, that you use to stay consistent when it comes to your health and fitness?
Okay.
Yeah.
I know
Okay.
the big answer.
Yeah. Yeah. So we hear a lot of times about creating a vision, right? We all have this vision, but
Yes.
how many times have we created an anti-vision and created like an enemy and created a person that we most despise the most? So I created an anti-vision of myself. I created a you can look at it as like a alternate version of myself from a parallel world. So this is the version that I most despise of myself. He does a lot of habits. He's much more lazier. He's whiny. He's a victim a lot. And so I think about different habits that I most despise the most, and I create this person. So on certain days where maybe I don't feel like just even going for a walk or something, I just want to sit and work. I just want to sit and type and write. But I know I need to get out there and walk or just go for a run or something. I'll think about this character. What would this character do? And do I want to be this character? And then
Yeah.
and then think about this character once again, 8 to 10 years down the line. And that's the enemy. Because a lot of times, I I'm fueled more by, like, I like to have I think about enemies and things like that. So think about how you're motivated, and a lot of us are motivated to not be this person, right? We will fight a lot of times harder to not be something than to be something, and so we can leverage that to our advantage.
That's true. This is resonated with, I'm sure maybe you are about it, the anti-goal setting by Sahel Bloom, right? So he talks about setting anti-goals. What are the things that you don't want to do? So yeah, so it's a strategy for some people because
Mhm.
at some, and it happens in tech a lot. Sometimes you set the goal and you procrastinate actually on doing that goal. And then when you do the opposite and you say, I don't want to do it, your brain works in it better. I think it depends on the personality, depends on the situation you are in. But yeah, it's a good hack actually for some people is to use your approach, who is the person that I don't want to be, or like which are the habits that I don't want to have. 100% I agree on this
Ye
part.
Yeah, we have different motivational types, right? Some people are motivated to prove a point to people. Some people are motivated to take care of others and they think about the collective as a whole. Some people are more individualistically driven as a motivation. So I'm probably more in that category, that I'm really driven by what potential and what I can do to really push myself to the limit. What more can I do? And so that's my motivation type. Maybe second for me is thinking about to prove a point to people, and then as a whole collective, that's probably down on the list. I'm like, whatever. Doesn't mean I don't like
Yeah,
people. It just means that that's just not my first and foremost thing is to create this massive thing that changes humanity and everything. I don't think in that perspective. I like to affect the people around me, and then maybe get a hockey assist, and then by helping them be better, they'll help somebody else be better.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Julian, anything you want to add before we come to close?
No, I think this was a fantastic conversation. I would just, I guess I do want to add something. So, so
Yeah,
I,
please.
I just really inspire. I just really, really urge the, all your listeners. They're doing great work out there. I know they are. They're listening to this show, um, and to really don't forget about your health, because taking care of your health is going to magnify everything. It's going to be your competitive advantage, and you're not going to regret it, 5, 10 years down the line when you still have this great product, you're still doing this great service, probably onto the next venture then because you already created something great, then you're doing the next thing. And you're gonna be around people that are happy to see you, and you're gonna be there fully present. You're gonna be able to run around with them, ski, run, boat, whatever your sport of choice is, and you're really gonna have this rich life. And rich life is
Yeah,
not just something monetarily; it's something that's just with experiences and everything. You're gonna really be able to get the fruits of life. It's not something. It's not just about lifespan and living longer, but it's also about the health span and the quality of that life that we're living.
100%. Because it's a motto that I have. If I am healthy, I can do anything. If I'm not healthy, I will not be able to do all the things that I want to do. So,
Absolutely,
100%. Great. Thank you very much, Julian. I really enjoyed also this conversation. I'm trying, as I said, to diversify. I don't want to be doing the traditional startup founders, like what are the best ways to grow your business. So I wanted today to touch the human side of this. And thank you for sharing your insights. I hope that the audience will find it useful, I'm sure. What I will do also, Julian, and I do this with all my guests. So for the audience, if you are interested to know more about Julian and the work he does, I would be sharing his website and his social media handles, so you can reach out to him if you want. And as usual, if you are watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And if you are listening on any of your favorite podcasting platform for the first time, don't forget to subscribe as well. And please tell your friends, family, and colleagues. And as I say at the end of every episode, if you have any questions, if you have any feedback about this episode or the show in general, please reach out to me. I would be more than happy to discuss this with you. If you are interested to be a guest, same what we did with Juliet today, also please reach out to me again by email, Twitter, or LinkedIn. I would be more than happy to discuss that with you. And as usual, until we meet the next episode, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.